Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures, and today I'm actually quite excited to go over this. We've got the dev journal for the Biosyn expansion pack, or the Dominion Biosyn expansion pack, so I'm really excited to talk about that because we can see finally for the first time in the Jurassic Park franchise we have like full-on feathers. And they talk a little bit about the development of that, and I think it's really interesting to talk about things like that as well. Just interesting little things to add my own input, things like that. So I'm really excited to get stuck into it. So this is kind of talks about the process of that, and I'm really excited to have a look at this. So hello again, park managers. The Jurassic World Evolution 2 Dominion Biosyn expansion is just around the corner. I'm pretty excited for all the new things this DLC will add to the game. The biggest being, of course, the all-new feathered dinosaurs and reptiles. We've got four new feathered animals. We've got Therizinosaurus, Pyroraptor, Quetzalcoatlus, and the feathered T.rex. So that's really awesome. So in this dev journal, we're joined by 3 people from the artist and animation team to share some insights on how they work to bringing these feathered dinosaurs to life. So this is why I picked it, because I love feathered dinosaurs and I like talking about that kind of stuff. So really awesome. So we will see from here. So thank you so much for joining us for this dev journal. Could you please introduce yourself and everyone to the community? So, hi, I'm Marif, and I'm a senior character animator working on Jurassic World Evolution 2. I help create the feathered dinosaurs you will meet very soon. Amy Hook is the lead animator for Jurassic World Evolution 2, Dominion Biosyn expansion, and Jack is one of the animators for Jurassic World Evolution 2, who's been working hard to bring you the biggest, baddest, and featheriest dinosaurs and flying reptile yet. I like how they always have to clarify, because Quetzalcoatlus is not a dinosaur, it is a pterosaur. Though it's very possible that the pycnofibers on pterosaurs and the feathers on dinosaurs may be the same thing and be descended from the ancestors of the group Ornithodira, which is the group that both pterosaurs and dinosaurs belong into. And let's have a look. Although dinosaurs did exist, the remains we have of them are limited. Could you talk a bit about the research you've done into bringing feathered dinosaurs to life? So yeah, this is very interesting. A lot of our initial references came from the dinosaurs as they appear in Jurassic World Dominion, of course, it's a Dominion DLC. That gave us a great indication of which artistic direction to take the creation of the in-game counterparts. We wanted to give fans something new and exciting, and I think the team really nailed it. And interestingly, there was such a range in the visual look of different animals. Some have tuffy hair all over, some have a mixture of feathers growing from hair, and some even were referred to as a full back rug. I think that's probably the Therizinosaurus. And we're really happy to be able to recreate some of the cool and interesting looks of these guys. So it's really interesting to see the feather technology going in. And this is by Marif, by the way. I worked closely with a fantastic technical artist to develop a new fur and feather technology we needed. This allowed the character team to rapidly iterate on our designs, giving us a lot of freedom to try new things, while we worked to establish the look we needed for the game. We also built a new custom feather shader for use for all the new feathered dinosaurs and reptiles, which gave us more control when trying to match their visual feel to how they looked into the Jurassic World, and how they should look into the Jurassic World franchise. That's very interesting. So yeah, we can see that they've developed some new technologies, and I'll talk about that a little bit soon. But yeah, it's really awesome that they're looking at, obviously the movies are not accurate to real life, but I think obviously people want to buy Dominion, they want to get Dominion dinosaurs, so I think it's cool. And getting the feathers in the game as well opens up modding and all sorts of really cool things. And we were able to integrate our existing dinosaur skin materials with the new fur tech to allow a rich and varied amount of detail to models, which all help bring them to life. Adding snow and dust and water effects to the feathers and fur really helped to complete the look of these creatures within their environment. So that's really cool, having them interact with the snow and dust and water effects. That's really, really cool. And yeah, as I keep mentioning, it's really awesome that we're finally getting feathered dinosaurs, since we know pretty much for a fact now that a lot of dinosaurs had feathers. We specifically know about 60 taxa, or 60 different species or genera of dinosaurs that are known with feathers directly, and a lot of others with indirect evidence of feathers. So I think that's really interesting. And then we can have a look at the Pyroraptor, kind of the poster boy. And then we have a little bit of Jack. So whether we're adding a new dinosaur or reptile, of course I got to clarify, because not all the dinosaurs and all the animals in the game are dinosaurs. We've been spending quite a bit of time discussing how we feel the animal should behave and try to get some coherent personality across all its animations. And Amy said we read articles on how these dinosaurs may have behaved and moved, as well as the films as a key source of authenticity. So makes sense, yeah. Obviously, with this expansion, there are some pre-established behaviors, but then it's up to us to decide how the animal should behave in scenarios outside what you'd expect normally see in the films. And it has to be true to the greater Jurassic World franchise, so it has to be fun. So it's been a fun balance to work out, so that's really, really cool. So obviously, as I mentioned, not realistic to real life, but obviously realistic to consistent with the franchise. And did you use a lot of references from real life animals? What sort of animals did you look at? So here we've got we try to find as much reference as possible, usually from the animals that have a similar body shape, and then try to scale it to give it a sense of weight. The Pyroraptor and Therizinosaurus both have reference drawn from birds like chickens, ostriches, and cassowaries, all really good picks, whether the Dimetrodon is more heavily inspired by large reptiles like the Komodo dragon and crocodiles. This helps add nuance to our animations and make them feel more alive and believable. So the thing that I think is weird that they use kind of reptiles. Dimetrodon is a very weird animal. It's kind of mammal adjacent, or they could use the term mammal like reptiles, but that's not really an accurate term for them. So usually they should use the term synapsid. So there were those really, really early mammal ancestors that were kind of vaguely reptilian. It's very possible that these guys may have potentially had kind of a permanent high walk, so they weren't really scurrying around like reptiles. So they were a bit anatomically different, but obviously there's not really a living reference for that, so I can understand. And then we have Jack. Videos of large and slim birds were circulating across the animation team for quite some time for Quetzalcoatlus, so that's really cool. So I can imagine things like herons, egrets, birds like that. I think that'd be very good comparison. And meanwhile, I've been throwing in the occasional elephant video while animating the gigantic new Dreadnoughtus variant, so that's very interesting. And first we're going to have a look at one of the, we wanted to share a brief snippet of some of the new Pyroraptor animations. So really, really awesome. We're going to have a look at this guy. So let's see if it works. So look at that, boom, boom. I really like seeing the animations. We'll have another look at that. Well, the feathers clip a little bit, but I really do like how that... I like how the feathers organically react to the animal moving, and like the wings as well. I think that looks really, really nice. Really does fit the game as well. I think it's really cool. And it's just so awesome to finally get feathers. It's really nice to see feathered dinosaurs getting popular again. Well, should be popular, because the earliest kind of... the first birds, really... well, not the first bird. The first, like... bird-like dinosaurs discovered, like Archaeopteryx, basically in an alternate universe, or if people were more accepting of evolution at the time, birds being dinosaurs wouldn't be such a controversial thing today. So yeah, it just shows that finally people are getting used to the idea. It's not a weird idea now. It's basically been on the minds of scientists since dinosaurs first became a thing back in like the 18th century. So I think that's really interesting. Well, 17th century technically, I think. But yeah, we've got Melf again. So Malrif, I believe you pronounced that. I'm not the best at different names. But on the creature design side, we looked at feathers on many types of birds and broke down which feathers are needed to make a full wing. Specifically, how individual feathers overlap, interlocked, and splay apart at different stages of movement. So that would be all the like the culverts and the alula and all the different types of feathers, or wing feathers that you see on a bird. It's kind of very kind of hastily put on here. It's not very accurate to how actual bird wings look, because you'd expect the alula and a lot of the primary feathers are attached by the middle finger, which is obviously not shown in the Pyroraptor there, but obviously that's probably too critical of, especially when it's the Jurassic World design and not Evolution's design, so kind of can't blame it. And birds such as the bald eagle and thick-billed raven were great references, as their feathers were slick and almost blade-like, which is very similar to Pyroraptors, for example. We worked closely with our material artists who used the references we gathered to create custom feather textures that could be integrated on to help find the dinosaurs' unique feather shapes. And similarly, We had to understand how different types of fur, quote unquote fur, works, and we looked at deer for their silky short fur, and Highland cows to how they replicate clumped and matted fur. This was a really useful reference in understanding how animal fur flows in different directions across the animal's body, and how it changes its length and shape can create specific visual looks. So I think that's very interesting, especially since obviously Planet Zoo had a lot of very fluffy animals, and it's really nice to see that improved here, because I think Jurassic World has a slightly more realistic style. But yeah, honestly, I'd like to see that implemented in some more birds. I hope we get more birds for Planet Zoo and this kind of technology to kind of give the feathers more variation and things like that. It's really cool. So, what's been the most important to you when bringing these new feathered dinosaurs to life? So, the most important thing for Midriff, how you say that, is for working closely with the fantastic group of talented artists across multiple departments, including my own team members, and being supported by a brilliant lead. Every department, from concept to rigging to audio, all come together to create a final product that's all essentially in not only making a model look great, but giving it character so that you believe it belongs in the world of the game. And Amy said, it's been important that we get the weight and feel of the feathers themselves correct. For example, when animating the Pyroraptor, we look at chickens and other feathered birds, especially those with longer feathers, so we can get the weight and feeling right as she shakes her head and preens herself. Trying to get the weight of a feather right is a new skill that we had to learn. If it's too stiff, it feels like it's not being animated, and if there's too much delay, it starts to feel like a heavy fabric, and if you add too much overlap, it starts to feel like rubber. It's definitely a balancing act. You got to really work on that sometimes. So here is our look at our preening animations. So a lot of birds preened, obviously keep their feathers clean and stuff like that. So we've obviously got some new animations for these guys. Let's have a look. That's a nice preening animation. That's like I think it's really cool that it just adds a new behavior for these guys. And adds new animations, because they're doing bird things. They're birds, so they're doing bird things. So we've also tried to incorporate the feathers into many of our animations. So this is from Jack. A lot of our preening animations this time around have the dinosaurs and flying reptile ruffling and cleaning their feathers. Plus, we even have a new animation specifically for feathered animals where they shake themselves dry after wet weather. So they'll kind of shake themselves off. Very interesting. There's also a fun challenge to try and get the Pyroraptor to display its wings out and any given opportunity to show the wing feathers off. So that's really awesome. So it's really cool that we're getting feathered dinosaurs, and I really like the potential future implication of these. So let's have a look at this. So what are you most excited to see when the Jurassic World Evolution 2 Dominion Bison expansion launches in June? Jack says, I love seeing people notice all the small touches we've added to make these dinosaurs and reptiles truly come to life. I'm always scanning social media responses on our launches to see how they all love for our cool new stuff. And Maruf says, seeing the fan reaction to all the cool content. And Amy said, I'm most excited for players to be able to have new dinosaurs like the Therizinosaurus and the Dimetrodon in their parks. It'll be fun to see how people manage the incredibly territorial Therizinosaurus, and the Dimetrodon just looks so different from anything else that we've had in the game. So, yeah, it's a wonderful look. And then this is another, thanks for all that time of day, talk about that. The work you've done is absolutely stellar, and I can't wait for everyone to see the new dinosaurs in the game. So that's really, really cool. So I think, talking about this incredibly territorial Therizinosaurus, I think this might be a bit of a spoiler for Dominion, so if you don't want to know that, just kind of skip ahead a little bit. But apparently in the movie, the Therizinosaurus is supposed to be incredibly territorial, and I think it's really cool because it kind of breaks that gentle giant myth. So if you look at hippos and zebras, male zebras will get quite territorial during the breeding season and maintain territories. Hippos can get quite territorial. There's lots of large mammals can get territorial, and large herbivores, and it kind of really shows off that difference. So it's really cool to have a herbivore that's kind of really aggressive and really different, especially territorial, because if it's very territorial, that means it's a new management thing that we'll have to be aware of to contain it. So I think that's really cool. And yeah, I think this kind of really just shows the direction in the future. It's really nice to have feathered dinosaurs out into basically in the public, because there's not very many feathered dinosaurs, especially because Jurassic Park's pretty much the only famous franchise that has dinosaurs that's popular. So having dinosaurs that are feathered in this franchise is also really good, because I think it has a responsibility to show off dinosaurs as realistically possible, because no one else kind of does dinosaurs, because that's quote-unquote Universal's thing. But luckily we've got very popular things like Prehistoric Planet, and I love Prehistoric Planet bits. It's so beautiful. And it's really nice to be able to see feathered dinosaurs becoming more and more popular, especially with how popular Prehistoric Planet was. It was apparently it was like the 5th most streamed thing during May, I think, or something like that. So it's very popular, and I really like how they did it in that style of obviously the nature documentary. I think that came out wonderful. But yeah, I think there's 2 very cool things that I'd like to talk about for the potential of this in the future. I think it'd be really cool to have a lot more feathered dinosaurs introduced into Jurassic World Evolution 2 after this. So I think some really cool animals would be, obviously, we're missing kind of at the moment Oviraptor and Moros Intrepidus, which are feathered. So it's potentially 6 dinosaurs from the movies that could be coming in that are feathered. But there's also animals that I think are just so cool. There's like Dreadnoughtus that potentially could be feathered. We've got Therizinosaurus. Trying to think of some other cool dinosaurs. Microraptor, that could be an animal that flies. Yeah, it's kind of controversial. Archaeopteryx as well. But yeah, I think it really just opens the floodgates. And then also adding pycnofibers onto the pterosaurs. You can have a lot more pterosaurs that have pycnofibers and covered in hair and things like that. Well, technically it's not hair at all. It's very different from hair. But kind of more accurate in that regard. Because obviously I think having... and also just modding as well. Modding, you could... if people can make it, and they could put... something like they got the feathered T.rex. They could potentially put feathers on the Velociraptor or put pycnofibers on the pterosaurs. Yeah, I think for modding as well, and just education as well, talking about how these dinosaurs were more related to birds and things like that. And I think that's just so cool. So there's lots of modding opportunities. New feathered dinosaurs would be awesome. But also, I would really like to see this used in Planet Zoo, because Planet Zoo doesn't have very many birds. And we kind of have the ostrich, the cassowary, the peafowl, the penguins, and the crane and the flamingo, unless I mentioned that. So flamingo, ostrich, cassowary, flamingo, ostrich, cassowary, peafowl, crane, and the cassowary. So that's 6. So out of the 120 animals, there's only 6 birds. And really developing this feather thing makes me feel like that they're going to do something more with birds in the future potentially, or use this if they do more birds. So it'd be really awesome to kind of have really good feathers along with the really nice fur that Planet Zoo's got, even though it's a bit more stylized. And yeah, I'm quite excited to have a look at this. I'm going to go watch Dominion, hopefully. I want to go watch it with a friend of mine. He's told me that I can't look at it with my realism glasses, but yeah, it is what it is. I'm just going to judge it as it is. I don't want to go in with any preconceived expectations. I just want to go in and experience it as flat as possible. And if I have a bad opinion of it, it's a bad opinion. If I have a good opinion, it's a good opinion. It's just what I think, and I think that's fine. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed me talking about this, and I enjoyed talking about a little bit of feathered dinosaurs and stuff like that. So, yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the little bell icon to get notified when loading anything. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.